A synod, ʻsɪnəd, historically is a council of a church, usually convened to decide an issue of doctrine, administration or application. In modern usage, the word often refers to the governing body of a particular church, whether its members are meeting or not. It is also sometimes used to refer to a church that is governed by a synod. The word synod comes from the Greek sigma upsilon nu omicron delta omicron sigma, meaning assembly or meeting, and it is synonymous with the Latin word concilium, meaning council. Originally, synods were meetings of bishops, and the word is still used in that sense in Catholicism and Eastern Orthodoxy. Sometimes the phrase general synod or general council refers to an ecumenical council. The word synod also refers to the standing council of high-ranking bishops governing some of the autocephalous Eastern Orthodox churches. Similarly, the day-to-day governance of patriarchal and major archiepiscopal Eastern Catholic churches are entrusted to a permanent synod. Usages in different communions. Orthodox. In Orthodox churches, synods of bishops are meetings of bishops within each autonomous church and of the primary vehicle for the election of bishops and the establishment of interdiocesan ecclesiastical laws. A sober is a formal gathering, a council of bishops together with other clerical and lay delegates representing the church to deal with matters of faith, morality, rite, and canonical and cultural life. The synod in the Western churches is similar, but it is distinguished by being usually limited to an assembly of bishops. The term is found among those Eastern Orthodox churches that use a Slavic language, along with the Romanian Orthodox Church. Assembly. The presence of clerical and lay delegates is for the purpose of discerning the consensus of the church on important matters. However, the bishops form an upper house of the sober, and the laity cannot overrule their decisions. Kiev and Rus chronicles record the first known Russian church sober as having taken place in Kiev in 1051. Sobors were convened periodically from then on. One notable assembly held in 1415 formed a separate metropoly for the church in the Grand Duchy of Lithuanian lands. Important sobors in the history of the Russian Orthodox Church are Vladimir's Sober in 1276. The Stoglavy Sober in 1551, the Moscow Sober of 1666 to 1667, to deal with disputes surrounding the ecclesiastical reforms of Patriarch Nikon, the All-Russian Sober of 1917, which restored the Moscow Patriarchate and elected St. Tikhon as the first modern Patriarch of Moscow, the All-Russian Sober of 1988, called on the 1000th anniversary of the baptism of Rus to guide the Church in the wake of Glasnost and the loosening of the Soviet grip over the Church. A bishop may also call a sober for his diocese, which again would have delegates from the clergy, monasteries and parishes of his diocese, to discuss important matters. Such diocesan sobors may be held annually or only occasionally. Catholic. In Roman Catholic usage, synod and council are theoretically synonymous as they are of Greek and Latin origins, respectively, both meaning an authoritative meeting of bishops for the purpose of church administration in the areas of teaching and governance. However, in modern use, synod and council are applied to specific categories of such meetings and so do not really overlap. A synod generally meets every 3 years and is thus designated an ordinary general assembly. Quote, however, extraordinary synods can be called to deal with specific situations. There are also special synods for the Church in a specific geographic area, such as the one held November 16 to December 12, 1997 for the Church in America. Synod of Bishops. While the words synod and council usually refer to a transitory meeting, the term Synod of Bishops or Synod of the Bishops is also applied to a permanent body established in 1965 as an advisory body of the Pope. It holds assemblies at which bishops and religious superiors, elected by bishops' conferences of the Union of Superiors, General or appointed by the Pope vote on proposals to present for the Pope's consideration, and which in practice the Pope uses is the basis of post-synodal apostolic exhortations on the themes discussed, while an assembly of the Synod of Bishops thus expresses its collective wishes. It does not issue decrees, unless in certain cases the Pope authorizes it to do so, and even then an assembly's decision requires ratification by the Pope. The Pope serves as president of an assembly or appoints the president, determines the agenda and summons, suspends, and dissolves the assembly. Modern Catholic Synod themes: X. The Bishop, servant of the Gospel of Jesus Christ for the hope of the world, 1998. She, the Eucharist, source and summit of the life and mission of the Church, 2005. 12. The Word of God in the Life and Mission of the Church, 2008. 13. New Evangelization for the Transmission of the Christian Faith, 2012. Extraordinary General: The Pastoral Challenges of the Family in the Context of Evangelization, 2014. Councils. Meetings of bishops in the Roman Empire are known from the mid-3rd century and already numbered 20 by the time of the First Council of Nicaea. Thereafter they continued by the hundreds into the 6th century. Those authorized by an emperor and often attended by him came to be called ecumenical, meaning throughout the world. Today, council in Roman Catholic canon law typically refers to an irregular meeting of the entire episcopate of a nation, region, or the world for the purpose of legislation with binding force. Those contemplated in canon law are the following. An ecumenical council is an irregular meeting of the entire episcopate in communion with the Pope and is, along with the Pope, the highest legislative authority of the universal Church. The Pope alone has the right to convoke, suspend, and dissolve an ecumenical council. He also presides over it, chooses someone else to do so, and determines the agenda. The vacancy of the Holy See automatically suspends an ecumenical council. Laws or teachings issued by an ecumenical council require the confirmation of the Pope, who alone has the right to promulgate them. The role of the Pope in an ecumenical council is a distinct feature of the Catholic Church. Plenary councils, which are meetings of the entire episcopate of a nation, are convoked by the National Episcopal Conference. Provincial councils, which consist of the bishops of an ecclesiastical province smaller than a nation, are convoked by the metropolitan with consent of a majority of the suffragan bishops. Plenary and provincial councils are categorized as particular councils. A particular council is composed of all the bishops of the territory as well as other ecclesiastical ordinaries who head particular churches in the territory. Each of these members has a vote on council legislation. Additionally, the following persons by law are part of particular councils but only participate in an advisory capacity: vicars general and episcopal, presidents of Catholic universities, deans of Catholic departments of theology and canon law, some major superiors elected by all the major superiors in the territory, some rectors of seminaries elected by the rectors of seminaries in the territory, and 2 members from each cathedral chapter, presbyterial council, or pastoral council in the territory. The convoking authority can also select other members of the faithful to participate in the council in an advisory capacity. Meetings of the entire episcopate of a supranational region have historically been called councils as well, such as the various councils of Carthage in which all the bishops of North Africa were to attend. During the Middle Ages, some councils were legatine, called by a papal legate rather than the Pope a bishop. Synods. Synods in Eastern Rite Catholic churches are similar to synods in Orthodox churches in that they are the primary vehicle for election of bishops and establishment of interdiocesan ecclesiastical laws. The term synod in Latin Rite canon law, however, refers to meetings of a representative, thematic, non-legislative or mixed nature or in some other way do not meet the qualifications of a council. Examples include, diocesan synods are irregular meetings of the clergy and laity of a particular church summoned by the diocesan bishop to deliberate on legislative matters. Only the diocesan bishop holds legislative authority. The other members of the diocesan synod act only in an advisory capacity. Those who must be invited to a diocesan synod by law are any coadjutor or auxiliary bishops, the vicars general and episcopal, the officialis, the vicars forain plus an additional priest from each vicariate forain, the presbyterial council, canons of the cathedral chapter, the rector of the seminary, some of the superiors of religious houses in the diocese, are members of the laity chosen by the diocesan pastoral council, though the diocesan bishop can invite others to attend at his own initiative. Episcopal conferences. National episcopal conferences are another development of the Second Vatican Council. They are permanent bodies consisting of all the Latin Rite bishops of a nation and those equivalent to diocesan bishops in law. Bishops of other sui juris churches and papal nuncios are not members of episcopal conferences by law, though the conference itself may invite them in an advisory or voting capacity. While councils and diocesan synods have full legislative powers in their areas of competence, national episcopal conferences may only issue supplementary legislation when authorized to do so in canon law or by decree of the Holy See. Additionally, any such supplemental legislation requires a two-thirds vote of the conference and review by the Holy See to have the force of law. Without such authorization and review, episcopal conferences are deliberative only and exercise no authority over the member bishops or dioceses. Anglican. In the Anglican Communion, synods are elected by clergy and laity. In most Anglican churches, there is a geographical hierarchy of synods, with General Synod at the top. Bishops, clergy and laity meet as houses within the synod. Diocesan synods are convened by a bishop in his or her diocese, and consist of elected clergy and lay members. Deanery synods are convened by the rural dean and consist of all clergy licensed to a benefice within the deanery, plus elected lay members. Lutheran. In Lutheran traditions, a synod can be on the one hand an administrative region or entire church body, or on the other hand a legislative body on different levels of the church administration. A synod as a local administrative region is similar to a diocese in other denominations, such as the Minneapolis Area Synod of the Evangelical Lutheran Church in America, whereas with the Lutheran Church Missouri Synod it denotes an entire church body. The usage of synod as an administrative ecclesiastical region is reflected by the German term Synodalverband, such as the Regional Synodal Federation of the Free City of Danzig. A synod is a legislation comprising deputies to be elected by all enfranchised members of a church and competent for the entire church, is similar to a general assembly in Presbyterianism, e.g., called with regional Protestant church bodies in Germany Landessynod or General Synod. A synod only competent for an administrative subunit of a church body, such as a city synod or provincial synod. A few Lutheran churches, such as the Church of Sweden of the Evangelical Regional Church in Württemberg, allow for the formation of political parties. Church party, a colloquy circle to nominate candidates for the synod as a legislation. It is an extension of the idea of multi-ideological democracy within the church. Also, the former Evangelical Church of the Old Prussian Union comprising besides mostly Lutheran also some Reformed and United Protestant congregations, had church parties in its presbyterial and synodal elections. Presbyterian. In the Presbyterian system of church governance, the synod is a level of administration between the local presbytery and the National General Assembly. Some denominations use the synod, such as the Presbyterian Church in Canada, Uniting Church in Australia, and the Presbyterian Church USA. However, some other churches do not use the synod at all, and the Church of Scotland dissolved its synods in 1993. See List of Church of Scotland synods and presbyteries. Reformed. In Swiss and Southern German Reformed churches, where the Reformed churches are organized as regionally defined independent churches, the synod corresponds to the General Assembly of Presbyterian churches. In Reformed churches, the synod can denote a regional meeting of representatives of various classes, or the general denominational meeting of representatives from the regional synods. Some churches, especially the smaller denominations, do not have the regional synod tier. Church of Christ in Congo. In the Democratic Republic of the Congo, the vast majority of Protestant denominations have regrouped under a religious institution named the Church of Christ in Congo, or CCC, often referred to, within the Congard, simply as the Protestant Church. In the CCC structure, the National Synod is the General Assembly of the various churches that constitutes the CCC. For the synod is drawn an executive committee and a secretariat. There are also synods of the CCC in every province of the Congard, known appropriately as provincial synods. The CCC regroups 62 Protestant denominations. Some notable synods.